Hello, guys. Good morning. Good evening. This is Matt, your host, and we are sitting with Peter here. We are the Couple Nurses Podcast. We are a podcast where we tackle hot nursing topics one conversation at a time. How you doing today, Peter Findro?
What's up, guys? I'm doing good. It's actually 30 degrees over here, so it's actually a nice warming of this winter weather here in Chicago. It was like 5 to 7 degrees these past couple of days, so it's actually pretty warm right now. 35, can't complain. I was wearing just like a little thin jacket on my way to the gym. How's the weather over there?
I know how that feels, man, when Chicago gets warmer and you're just kind of like really digging it, feeling it. But I am in Venice. This is my first recording session here. So those that are watching on YouTube, this is my new room. And I've accustomed pretty well. I'm using like a little furniture table that's meant for like flowers and pictures, man. And I just kind of made it into a little podcast session. So
Making it work, man. Are those fake flowers over there or are those real flowers?
Yeah, so everything in this house, I think there's like 5 or 6 plants, bro. They are all plastic. So that kind of takes away that feeling of nature. So I actually bought myself a plant.
What kind of, is it a cactus?
No, man, to be honest, I have it looked up on my phone to kind of do some research about it, but it requires minimal care, semi-sunlight. You water it once a week. So it's like a plant that's able to survive when I'm, working those night shifts.
I feel it. I was looking into plants like a while ago. I always wanted like a Venus flytrap, the ones that, those live ones that just eat the flies and whatever falls in there. But I wonder if you got to feed it though. Do you think you got to feed it like little bugs?
I'm almost cracking up because I feel like you would say something like that. You would want a Venus flytrap. I have no idea how that works, man. But I heard they are some nasty plants.
Like mean? Like they hiss at people? Like...
I mean, they do some shit, man. Like for some reason, the way they capture flies, and I was watching Discovery Channel about those plants, man. I don't know, man. I would stay away from them. Why don't you get yourself like a sunflower? Like
they smell? Do they? Because I wonder if they're like technically they're carnivores, right? Do they just eat? Yeah, I gotta look this up because is this all they do is just eat? Is there photosynthesis going on? Because there's no photosynthesis, and I gotta feed this plant. It's gonna be like having a fish all over again. Like I didn't have the time to take care of fish, so I decided to get rid of them. If I got to feed this thing, it's going to be kind of annoying. But if it could go like half, it's not a bad idea. I could probably feed it like a fly a day or, put it by a window.
Imagine putting it like that plant in a little fish tank so that fly has nowhere to fly just so it lands in that Venus flytrap. That's a good way to feed it.
Like on top, put a little net, like a netting.
Yeah.
And then just have that fly go around. But then because the fly would eventually have to land somewhere in its mouth, right?
Imagine tying the fly on a fishing line, and then the plant eats it. And what would happen if you pull it out?
I have no idea. But speaking of that, my mom used to do that for fun. When my mom was younger, she used to like, used to be out farming, and sometimes they would take like little breaks or whatever. And she used to catch flies, and she would pull off the wings out of the flies, and she would tie a little thread around it, and she'd walk it.
Oh my God, dude. This is your mom.
This is my mom. Literally torturing these poor flies, literally pulling off the wings and just making them walk with a little string.
Next time I see her when I'm in Chicago, man, I'm going to bring this up.
You could bring it up. And she, like, there's flies around the house. She catches them. And then she just puts them outside. It's ridiculous. Like she has years of experience of like catching flies in the farms.
It's like hand-eye coordination, man. She'd be pretty good at ping pong.
Yeah. You know what else she's good at? Whooping my ass when I was younger, dude. That's for sure. God damn, dude. I've asked him so many times. But
it's kind of funny because, I mean, I feel like we should start the show, but it's kind of funny when you were 16, he threw that giant New Year's party, bro. And Peter's mom came and she seen Peter's closet door broken and she had no idea what the heck happened, bro. So she just took out the freaking belt, just started whipping Peter, like almost hit his head, no fucks given, just smacking his shoulder, his arm. Peter's defending himself and I'm just in the other corner of the room because I slept over. Like it's a very awkward situation. Like what am I supposed to say? Stop? Dude, so she turns around and starts beating me.
Dude, she probably wouldn't even care. She probably keep going. And when you guys left, dude, it was the guy, man, it's like 10x. Once there's no audience, dude, that's how she was with an audience. Imagine how she was when you guys left. I got my ass up so hard, dude. But, shit happens. But today, guys, what's up?
I kind of wanted to touch about parenting skills here. I feel like even though in America it's frowned upon to beat your kid, I think it's a very good form of self-discipline. Because I mean, I got my ass beat too, man, by my dad. So, but like in a good way, meaning, I wasn't abused, but like if I did something wrong or stole $20, I kind of learned my lesson very well.
Yeah, they definitely taught us what it means to get in trouble. Like if there's consequences to your actions, and there's no greater consequence than getting your ass whooped. And it's how you kind of learn. Instead of getting we got grounded, but instead of grounded, you got your ass whooped, and you got grounded. So it's like a double entendre. You got fucked both times. No TV, no video games, and your fucking thighs hurt now from the wooden spoon or the belt, man.
Yeah. Okay. I love how this show started, man. So what are we talking about today, PD?
Well, on today's episode, guys, we're going to talk about the infamous coronavirus. We're going to touch upon how it started, kind of what's going on, what are we doing to manage it, to treat it. Is there a cure? You'll find out. And we're also going to talk about nurses getting injured. So we're going to talk about workplace injuries. A lot of nurses suffer from back injuries. It's one of the worst professions to be in for your back and just for like sustained injuries at the workplace.
It's messed up, man. I actually took the safety occupational, safe handling classes, and they shared a story that there was a nurse that just started, new grad, and she pulled a patient, man, and she just kinked her back, man, and she stopped bedside nursing because of that. It's crazy how we have so many factors to deal with. Like these patients are like different kind of weight sizes. We're in different situations. We have IV poles. We have tubing. Like we never lift with good. Is it called ergonomics?
Maybe posture, or I don't know. I was going to say aerodynamics, but it's not aerodynamics.
Just our form of lifting and moving and transferring patients. It's not like lifting a barbell weight where you do it a nice and straight line. Like there's so many factors. Patient moves, grandma's like holding on to the rail as soon as you start lifting her. Like there's just so many things that could happen. And yeah, I feel like we have a pretty dangerous profession when it comes to back injuries and things like that.
We do. And you know what else is dangerous? That coronavirus that's spreading around this beautiful earth we have here. So the coronavirus, guys, I'm sure you all know, it started in Wuhan, China. We're still not really 100% sure where it came from. If it's animal-based, if it came from a person, the soil, a plant, we're not 100% sure. We're still trying to find that out. And it started in China, so obviously China is going to be, the most dangerous part of it. But China is a big player of the global economy, so people, fly into China, fly out of China, and that's why this is so dangerous. The way it spreads is, through the air, so it's very easy to catch. And China being so popular economically and just for people traveling, it makes it even more dangerous. It's not like it's a small country, like maybe somewhere in the Middle East or somewhere in Africa where maybe it can be easier contained. This potentially can have drastic effects even bigger than what we currently see right now.
It's interesting how we don't have a source of how it happened. But if we look back at like the SARS, which is another form of coronavirus, it happened from cats. And then we had the MERS, which is another one that emerged from a camel people cross contamination somehow. So I wonder if, this started in a seafood market. You never know. That could have been a bat, like a rat, a fish, a cat. Now I can start rhyming. And it just, infected a person, and then it spreads through contact or / droplet, right?
So it's officially through droplet. We're not really 100% sure on if there is like a contact also precaution. But some of the studies are showing that it does live on surfaces for up to 3 days, I believe. So it's not only past droplets. Some studies are actually showing that it actually can last on a surface for a long time. But the thing is, if somebody touches the surface and touches their mouth, do they get infected? Or is it just, it just has to be breathed in? That is not still 100% sure about, but it is for sure droplet precaution. So if somebody coughs, sneezes, farts, laughs, and that stuff goes in your mouth or in your nose, you inhale it, you're most likely going to get it. So similar to the flu. It's like the flu.
I have a very dirty picture when you said farts and inhaling it, man. But let's take a step back for those that don't know how things spread and why it's droplet and how it lives off surfaces. So the bacteria versus virus comparison. So a bacteria is actually a living organism. It could kind of provide on its own. A virus is essentially non-living, so it needs a host to reproduce. So what happens is a virus can hang out on the surface, and then it has to find a host, which is an animal or a human. And what happens is as soon as it enters the host, it goes into the cell, it infects the cell, and it starts producing its own machinery, technically. It starts replicating its own cells, and that's how a virus is spreading internally. That's why we say, hey, that virus could live on a surface for 3 days max because it needs a host to survive. So that's where we kind of talk about contact and how stuff spreads.
And the viruses are a lot harder to treat, get rid of, or cure, just because, like Matt said, it's not bacteria where it's living, where you can give an antibiotic. Antibiotics will not work for this. You would need like antiviral. So another virus, HIV is also a virus. Flu is a virus. You need antivirals, and these are a lot harder to treat because there is no native cell. There's just like a virus, like a capsule around it. So it's a lot harder to disrupt the virus's system, their genes, and prevent the spread and transmission compared to bacteria, where you give it an antibiotic and you kind of there's more ways to kill a living organism than it is to kill a non-living organism. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to compare a ghost to a human, man, but it's like if you're a ghost and if you're trying to kill a human in the house, you know where it's at and what to do with it. If it's a ghost, how are you going to attack the ghost when it's a non-living? It's literally invisible. You'd have to kind of create some kind of radar gun or something just to kind of give you guys into a perspective.
Yeah, drink some holy water or something, like back in the day. But the official name for coronavirus, they changed recently, and it's officially called COVID-19. The 19 is for the year 2019 is when it first came out. And the thing that makes it even more difficult to find and to kind of so it's kind of hard to diagnose, you could say, because it masks the flu. Basically, it has the same symptoms as the flu. Headache, fever, shortness of breath, cough. People could develop pneumonia from this. There's not one specific kind of sign that's going to say, oh, he's got coronavirus. It's not like your sputum's pink, where you cough and you spit out pink stuff or purple stuff or yellow stuff, and you're like, yep, that's coronavirus because it's yellow. No, it's the same symptoms you see as a flu. And the only way you can really find out that it is for sure coronavirus is through its testing. And then that's usually the RSV panel, correct, Matt? You get they swab your throat or your nose, and it's a serology test and a genetic testing to actually find out that this is coronavirus.
Yes. And what I like is even in this hospital, or it was Kaiser where I worked. So because of everything that's happening and we need more testing on RSV, sometimes some facilities, they send out this RSV panel to get tested in a lab. Now they have machines where they test the RSV panels here in the hospital, and the results come back within 24 hours. So that's pretty impressive that they're trying to upgrade based on what's happening in like our current society.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm not sure how long our RSV panels would take for the coronavirus. I think normal ones take like 24 to, I think, maybe 1 or 3 days, depending, because I believe we ship ours out. And we did have a coronavirus case in our facility. It ended up being negative, so thank God for that. But there is, I think, maybe 2 or 3 cases actually in Chicago that have been reported. If you go to our show notes, there's a link that Matt provided that kind of tracks all the coronavirus outbreaks that there is. If you guys are really interested, you guys could check it out. But there's 3 for sure that are in Chicago, but they're all negative.
So what happened is they were both positive actually, and they both recovered.
Oh, so it's hard. Three cases, 2 of them were positive, and like you said, they recovered. Sorry about that.
And what we meant recovery is they actually got treated. So that's kind of impressive. I think there's a couple cases in LA, but it's not recovered. So there's 73,000 reportings, and then they go into the bucket of dead or recovered, meaning they actually kind of cured themselves. Not cured themselves, but just the virus went away.
Yeah, so I guess you could say you killed yourself because there isn't a really cure for it. There's not like a vaccine, nothing that we can really give you to get rid of specifically coronavirus. We could kind of give you things that make you feel better, massive symptoms, things like that. But essentially, we are hoping that your native immune system is able to fight off the coronavirus by itself. And that's kind of what has been going on. I know some companies out there, some pharmaceutical companies, have said that they are working on some kind of medication or a vaccine to fight the coronavirus. I'm not sure how far they are in their completion of it, but there's people working on it. So maybe in the near future, maybe we'll get a vaccine or some kind of medication.
Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about the timeline because I'm actually pretty impressed how our world or our governments took care of all this, because usually in the news, we hear everything negative. This is happening. Trump's doing this. A bunch of negative shit, man. It's keeping us in this negative state. Here, I kind of wanted to take a look at the timeline of how we troubleshooted this coronavirus. And I'm actually very impressed by our society. So in December 31st of 2019, China basically alerted the World Health Organization that there's a pneumonia with an unknown cause. The next day, the Chinese shut down the the seafood market because of suspicions. Within that time, the first death happened 8 days later. On the 9th of January, a 61-year-old man died from the severe pneumonia. By the 12th of January, China shares the genetic sequencing of the coronavirus to help trace the dangers. So that's really impressive that within 12 days of getting alerted, China already has a DNA sequencing of the virus, and they're able to give it to multiple labs. And then let's move further down the timeline. 24th, we finally get one case in the United States. And it's interesting too. On the 27th, Bill Gates, he donated $100 million towards this outbreak.
Man, I like Bill Gates, man. That guy's always doing something. This guy has, I mean, if you guys know who Bill Gates is a creator and founder of Microsoft. Basically, has a role in every PC that you basically had your hands on in the past. I know he did a lot of donations with Ebola as well. Same with the swine flu. I know he's also trying to get rid of the West Nile virus in Africa. Like with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they do a lot of this, I guess you could say antiviral, health management, whatever you want to call it. But they definitely do a lot for these issues that are new, upcoming, or maybe they affect somebody that's in a poor population that people might not want to take care of. He does a lot of good foundation work.
Yeah. So in Africa, I watched his documentary. He tried to stop. What do you get from rickets? Is it it's with the letter M, bro. I'm like blanking out
Malaria.
right now. Not malaria.
Not malaria?
Polio. So he wanted to stop polio, and he was actually paying for vaccines. And these vaccinators are going to, little tribe to tribe, vaccinating everybody to stop the outbreaks, like in different countries like Uganda. But the thing is that some of these people think that the vaccines are bad, and they would kill the people that are coming to the vaccines through their little tribes. It's crazy. But I wanted to kind of finish this off here with this timeline. So we're at January 12th, United States, right? By February 3rd, China already has clinical trials for antiviral drug called remdesivir. And by February 10th, so this is 40 days later after coronavirus gets, put on the streets, 168 labs around the world are able to diagnose the virus successfully. And they're already running tests. That's we hear about negativity. Like I said, I'm like, this is impressive, man. Within 40 days, our world figures out a virus, figures out the DNA, and we're trying to stop it. That's impressive, man. I think China did a great job by stopping the no-fly zones because they're such a populated country to prevent this massive outbreak from happening.
Imagine if you could try something like this on a global scale, but with HIV or certain cancers. Imagine how strong this could research can be for autoimmune issues, like I said, cancer, diseases like that. There are maybe readily studied or more privatized, because a lot of businesses, they try to find a certain medication first, and then so they could reap the profits out of it. But think about it, if we could officially get on a global scale to together treat coronavirus, imagine what we could do with other diseases and other cancers or immune diseases.
It's not going to happen, Peter.
You never know. This could be this might be able to show us that, hey, maybe we can come together and figure this out. Maybe you could do something about this with diabetes, where everyone comes together and just figures it out. This might be the first step to it. You never know. It could cascade into a lot of other positive things.
Yeah. So I'm definitely an optimist with everything I do in life. I'm going to be very pessimistic here. And I'm just going to be like, dude, there's shitty people that are running our government. There are people that wouldn't want diabetes to be solved, because imagine how much money diabetes brings in to the pharmaceuticals, to surgeries, to the hospital. It's a business, unfortunately, but I really, really would love for, everybody to be cured from that if it was possible.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matthew.
Let's talk about workplace injuries. Do you want to wrap up coronavirus here?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not sure how much total deaths they are, but if you guys, like Matt has linked into the show notes, there's a consistent feed of where the coronavirus is, where it's majority affecting, shows you new spreads, shows you how many people died. And like I said before, there's no cure for it. There's no treatment for it. And the main reason people die is due to like a severe pneumonia, coronavirus associated pneumonia. And obviously we can't get rid of that pneumonia because there's no antibiotic that we give you or antiviral. That's why it's so dangerous. So right now we're banking on that your body is going to be able to handle its own and actually fight this coronavirus by itself, with us just helping it out by masking the symptoms, making you feel better.
Before we end, I actually pulled up the results, the data, the latest data, which just came out today. So right now, confirmed, we have 72,000 cases confirmed, almost 73,000. We are at 27 countries confirmed out of 195, and we have 1,800 deaths. Out of those confirmed cases, we have 13.1 thousand recovered patients. So not bad, you know. I mean, it's still a huge death toll compared to other viruses, but I think we're doing a good job, to be honest.
Yeah, and we're only maybe like 3 months in now. It started back in December. Yeah, so this potentially has still some fatal effect. So hopefully we get on top of this collectively and quicker than later, sooner than later.
Agreed, man. Let's talk about workplace injuries, man.
All right, so nurses out there, you know, workplace injuries are a main deterrent for nurses to staying in the nursing field for a long period of time. So I looked at some data. It's from 2016, but it's from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which is probably the most accurate form of data that you could probably get out there. It is from 2016, however, but if you think about it, it takes years to gather this data, and it takes years to compile this data and actually come up with these hypotheses and actually these statistics. So out of all of nurses out there, nurses have sustained, I think it's about 19,000 nurses have sustained some kind of injury that keeps them out of work for a day or longer in 2016. And majority of those nurses are in the hospital. And that makes sense because majority of nurses do work in a hospital compared to like nursing homes or health clinics or things like that. But 19,000 nurses have injured, and the majority of those injuries have been due to back issues associated with lifting, strains, things like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm looking at it like, you know, the 2016 statistic here. So 61% of all RNs are working in the hospitals, yet 74% of those, you know, injuries happen in the hospitals, man. And I see it myself. Like, I feel like sometimes what happens is we get rushed. First of all, man, I feel like we should just have some kind of movement and just change nursing all in general, because it's fudged up sometimes, man. But anyways, like, I feel like we have way too much stress, way too much things on our plate. Not only are we understaffed and all these other factors that we deal with, what happens then is we know how time consuming transferring a patient can be, you know, getting another nurse to help you with with a boost and all that. And what happens is, like, dude, we rush everything, man. Like, sometimes we run in the room and, you know, she has to, you know, pass a pill or something. You're just like lifting really quick. Like, you're not like putting the bed all the way flat or putting him in Trendelenburg so it's easier to go against gravity. Yeah, man, there's just a lot of factors that makes our job dangerous, just like you said, and fatal.
And what's even scary is that the data shows that the longer you work as a nurse, the more prone you are getting to these injuries. So out of all the data that they compiled, if you work 5 years or greater as a nurse, they compose more than half of the total injuries. That's really sad to see, because you would think that, hey, as you progress as a nurse, you think you'd be able to learn more and kind of avoid being hurt. You've probably seen somebody that got hurt and you kind of learn from their mistakes. But that's not the point here. What's actually showing is that the longer you work, the more chance you have of getting injured. And that does make sense if you look at it, because you're lifting more, you're doing more hands-on stuff the longer you work. So that completely makes sense. That's very unfortunate, because we're obviously not doing enough education or we don't have enough equipment that could help nurses. There's some kind of an issue there that we're not addressing. We're trying to address it, but it's clearly not hitting home.
I feel like hospitals, since they know how much workplace injuries and disability costs, I feel like they should be more proactive towards this reason. And it's kind of funny when I look at hospitals, because I've been travel nursing, every hospital is different. There's rules, there's laws that, you know, govern safe patient handling. There's one in California. There's one in Illinois. Not every single state has one, so they should definitely push for it. For example, Kaiser, right? Every single room had a blow up the hover mat. So every single room had the machine that you plug in and it blows up the mattress to transfer the patient easily. This hospital I'm working at does not have it. There's one on every single unit, for example. Kaiser, being a for-profit hospital, knows how much it costs, and they actually did the job to get a hover mat in every single room. Funny, man.
That makes wow. I wish we honestly. But do you always use it? Do you see nurses always using it, or do they still try to just like pull the patient over just with their hands normally?
It depends, man. And to be honest, I used the hover mat before and I did it myself. What I used to do is I take the break off, kind of move the bed a little bit towards, away from the wall. I blow up the mat and I drag the patient myself. Hey, I shouldn't be doing that. But honestly, the patient is so much lighter because you're blowing air in, and underneath the mattress, there's little micro holes, which are kind of blowing air. So imagine like an air hockey table. That little whatever that the hockey puck. There we go. Whatever the puck is so much lighter, so that the patient is like glides, bro.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I used it, but we did use it on our in service, like our proper lifting techniques in service. And yeah, that takes like a 400-pound patient, and you can just drag them over, like Matt said, yourself. You really don't need anybody else. You just need somebody there else, just because it's always better to have two people than one. And just in case you need somebody just to watch your back. But you could definitely move them yourself. I don't recommend doing it yourself, just because that's not the safest thing. Maybe you pull them too hard, and maybe the patient's going to fall on you. But it makes things a lot easier. I know in our hospital, or in my floor, we have those cranks. Well, it's not a crank. It's electric. Those lifts.
Okay.
It's in every room. It's like the giant lifts that go on the ceiling, and you just bring it down and you put the sheet under the person. But the issue with those is that it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time out of your shift to transfer somebody over like that, because you got to put the little harness under them. Then you got to bring the machine over. You got to strap them up, and then you got to move them. Then you got to unstrap them, and vice versa. But those air mattresses are really legit. They're actually really cool. We have one. Maybe we have two. We have like 2 or 3 on our unit that we could just use. And I've used it before, and it makes things so much easier. Like all you gotta do is like just pull them over lightly. That 400-pound person turns into like a 20-pound person, just like that.
And those little cranes, they're awesome because you don't need to call another nurse to help you with stuff. Like in the ICU there, I used to do everything myself. Even an intubated patient, strap them up, transfer them, or sometimes you just lift one side and tuck a pillow. You don't need help for a turn. It takes longer. But being a travel nurse, you don't have as much help and resources, I feel like, and you could totally lone wolf it. This ICU I'm working at does not have lifts. I'm just like, what the heck, man? But it is what it is. And I feel like every single nurse that's, scared for, let's just say, getting workplace injuries, like go talk to your, go do your unit meetings, your whatever. I forget the names of the meetings, but talk to them, man. Talk about safety. Talk about you guys need this equipment because it makes a freaking difference. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to hurt your back, the hospital's not going to give a shit. That's just reality, guys, because you are responsible for your own health. If the hospital doesn't give you equipment, you don't say anything, well then, you get an injury, it's on you. You're going to suffer with that, not the hospital,
I mean, some hospitals are going to suffer financially, but imagine like you hurting your back and then having sciatica for the rest of your life. Like that sucks. Like imagine having sciatica the rest of your life because you didn't feel like using an air mattress, or you didn't feel like using a lift. Instead of living with pain your whole life, why not just devote the extra 15, 20 minutes to actually getting the equipment and actually doing it the proper way? Just to look back on it. Go on, Matt.
And I kind of wanted to say, you should kind of share your story because when you were younger, you actually hurt your back, man. And I remember at one point you kind of say, "Hey, Matt, take a look at my back. Like, is it crooked?" And I'm looking at your shoulders, man, and like one of your shoulders are higher than the other. I'm like, "Whoa, man! Like your back is like fudged."
Yeah, dude, definitely was not even. I went to chiropractor and did all that stuff, but I actually hurt my back in like a nursing home back when I was a CNA, and that was just due to what actually happened was it was like a patient that was, you could say, combative, and we tried to get him into bed, and we tried to get him up, and then he resisted, and none of us expected him to resist, and that's kind of how I hurt my back. We did end up doing like a safe transfer, but like I hurt my back, and I had to go to chiropractor for like 6 months, and it took a long time to heal. This was probably when I want to say 18, and the pain finally probably went away maybe like 3 or 4 years after that. And I still sometimes have that sciatica pain because technically I got diagnosed with sciatica. And it does, if I sit for a long time, then it does start to bother me a little bit. It's not as bad as it was before. It was all covered too by the facility that I worked at, but it sucks. Like it just flares up once in a while and you can't do anything about it. You just kind of got to walk it off. And that's not something that equipment could have helped with, but this is just an example that you could actually go through. So I've been dealing with this for I'm 25 years now. It's been about almost like 7 years with this issue.
Yeah, man. It's like one event, man, and the repercussions like echo throughout your, whole entire lifetime. Another like crazy statistic.
Got the police coming.
Jesus.
And a fire truck, man.
Yeah, let's just continue. So 2016, guys. I feel like there's a lot of like random crime that happens in Venice, man. Like it's nice touristy place, but there's just a lot of like, I went to go do some pull-ups at the beach there, and you just got like 2 African Americans just going at it. Like, get your Hollywood ass out of here. This is Venice Beach, bro. But anyways, funny as hell, man. Crack up. 2016. So just taking a look at how dangerous nursing really is when it comes to the back. Out of 10,000 cases, 104.2 cases happen with injuries for nurses, right? When it comes to all the occupations combined together, 91.7 cases happen per 10,000. So we as a profession, compared to all the occupations combined, still have higher workplace injuries.
Yeah, we get hurt on the job more than all the other professions, combined, which is very unfortunate. The majority of this is back. Actually, the stats show that's 45.6% of those 19,000 injuries we talked about happen just from back injuries. And then the following ones that are kind of after it are workplace violence and then falls and slips. Like, you'd be surprised to hear that workplace violence is number 3 on the most common injury that nurses sustain after back injuries and falls and slips. Falls and slips, you could kind of try to avoid by having like a neat room and just like things in the correct places. We actually had respiratory tech that slipped or tripped on some kind of equipment. I think it was like cables from the vent or something. So that's the first time I've seen that happen. But that just shows that it can really happen anywhere. And the lady came with like a leg brace, and she was actually out for like, I think it was like 3 weeks to like a month. And in workplace violence, something you would really not expect in nursing. It happens more often than you can think of. Let that be worker on worker, or majority of the time it's actually patient on nurse, or patient on PCIA, or patient on physician. But nurses were right there in the trenches, so we're the ones that kind of get hit more than anybody else.
When it comes to workplace falls and slips, one thing that comes into mind for me is the SCD machine that hangs at the edge of the bed. I feel like there's never a proper place to plug that cable in. So sometimes you're plugging, some beds have a cable underneath the bed. I plug it in there. Sometimes I got to drag that cable across to the front end. So you got a black cable hanging around. Sometimes I didn't slip on it before, but I tripped. I tripped on my own lines before, and I tripped on like that kind of cable. I didn't fall, but I'm just like, oh, careful. Violence, man. Hell yeah, dude. Especially like the ETOH patients. Happens all the time. I even had a guy that almost bit my finger once. I was in Kaiser. He was in 4-point restraints. And I'm pretty sure I shared that story with you before.
I'm sure. But you share it again. It's appropriate time.
Of course. And the guy, man, he thinks I'm trying to kill him. The guy's freaking out. So he gets a hold of my IV tubing and starts biting his own PICC line off, man. Like, I'm just like, what the heck, dude? So I'm trying to grab his arm, and I'm trying to push some, what am I pushing?
Haldol?
Not Haldol. I was pushing benzo.
Ativan?
I wasn't pushing Ativan.
No.
I was pushing a benzo, bro. What are we giving?
Phenobarbital?
Phenobarbital. There we go, baby. I'm pushing some phenobarbital, and I'm trying to get into his arm. I got security holding this guy down, and he's trying to bite my freaking finger until security like takes his face, like pushes it to the side. And it's like, yeah, man, we just deal with dangerous shit sometimes. And you know, like people like imagine nursing is just like, okay, do you have to use the washroom? Okay. Do you have pain? Okay, I'll bring you
your
pill.
meds.
Yeah. Oh, you have a headache? I'll give you some ice. Like, nah, man. Sometimes I'm freaking scared for my own life here, trying to make it out of work on time. Like it's nursing is so interesting, man. I feel like we get so underpaid for what we do and deal with.
Yeah, man. It sucks. Like you said, you wouldn't think about these things, as a nurse, even nursing school, you never thought about, somebody swinging at you or somebody having to hold down a patient. Like, yeah, you hear those stories, but you're like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. But it happens to us more often than you might imagine. And it sucks, but it's just part of being a nurse, I guess. And like Matt said, maybe we got to address these issues in a more of a microscopic manner or what, but these definitely happen and people are getting hurt.
It's another one. Those little grandmas that say, "Oh, she is the sweetest thing." What happens? 12 o'clock at night, workplace violence. Man, I'm getting scratched by this grandma because she's trying to freaking get out of bed, or like some demented, some downing. Oh, I got to go to work. I got to get up and go to work. No, you are staying in bed because it's 12 o'clock at night. No, give me the slippers. Boom, nails coming out, trying to scratch me. Grandma, what are you doing? Nurse, give me the mittens. Oh man.
Yeah, man, that's that's crazy. Like night shift is a little different because you get the sundowners. So the way they act during the day might be completely different than the way they act at night. And then here comes the morning, and you're sweating. You're like all red. You're like Matt said, his arm scratched up, and then morning comes, you come in to round down your patient to introduce the next nurse. Grandma's like all happy, like, oh, when's my breakfast coming? I watched this coolest show on TV, and it's like she does not have any recollection of what she did overnight. Nothing. This is just, people are thinking you're making this up. You got like finger marks on your wrist. Like, no way, does grandma just try to hold your arm or try to scratch you? No, that happened. Like, yeah, Miss Betty over here. Yeah, she's a biter.
I had a guy like that too a couple weeks ago. What happened is 11 o'clock, man, he sundowned, and he had a lot of anxiety, and his daughter told him or taught him, whenever you feel anxious, get up. You have to get up and go outside and sit on your chair and breathe. So this guy all night, he gets an anxiety attack, has to get up, man, nonstop. Like bed alarm is going off all night. Gave him some Norco, gave him some Seroquel. Didn't give him Ativan because they didn't want to. And I even give him trazodone, melatonin, nothing, man. Guys are freaking tank. But he was also a meth user in the past, so he has high tolerance. All night, man. Getting up, he'll cuss at you. In the morning, this guy, sweetest guy, ordering breakfast, watching TV, laughing about Trump on the news. It's like, you tell a nurse, you have no idea what just happened. And it's like, no one believes you, man. But it's definitely a night shift thing, and it's mind-blowing to say the least.
Yeah, that's how shit goes on unit. Yo Gotti said, down in the DM, it's down on night shift for nurses.
We could definitely make a parody video about that, down in the night shift.
Yeah, maybe. But guys, since we're talking about these injuries, let's offer you guys some tips to prevent you from hurting your back. So obviously, guys, probably number one reason is going to be to
quit your job.
Yeah, quit your job. Yeah, make your hospital low so they have to change. No, the first and most important method of preventing any kind of back injuries is to basically stay in shape. Like you gotta be fit. When you're lifting weights, you're kind of getting a feel for how heavy the patient is going to be. Yeah, the patient isn't a barbell. It's not a dumbbell. It's not a circular weight. But you're gonna have strength to actually do this physical job that requires you to slide the patient over or lift them up from the ground or, hold them down if you had to. So you guys got to work out. You guys got to stay in shape. You don't got to have huge muscles. You just got to be able to lift something. You should definitely go to the gym, work out in some way, shape, or form. It's good for your heart too.
And I want to mention also, when it comes to staying in shape, I would also mention stretching. I feel like when I was in LaGrange, we used to crack a joke like, hey, can you touch your toes? There's so many nurses that couldn't touch their toes. Maybe they could back home, but what happens is we sit so long behind these damn computer desks and we stiffen up. Stress stiffens up the muscles. Charting nonstop stiffens up the muscles. So your hamstrings are all connected, right? Your hamstrings, if your hammies are tight from sitting, your lower back's going to be tight. Sometimes you just get up, go to the room, lift, hamstrings are tight, boom, prone to back injuries. I'm not saying to touch your toes before you get up and do your patient, but sometimes move around, loosen up a little bit, get the blood flowing, or hey, have a regimen where you are stretching at home because it makes a difference when you're more flexible. It prevents injuries. I try to stretch once a day, I'll be honest. I'd say twice, but I haven't been working out as much back here. But definitely, guys, get a yoga session in or get some kind of regimen that kind of helps with mobility.
And it feels good. Like it'll loosen you up. Like you'll see how you'll progress when you stretch. You're gonna be able to reach your toes a little further and further each time. You're like, yeah, this actually feels good. Like my hamstring haven't been as tight, this month as they were last month. Like I've been stretching, my arms feel good, my back feels good. It's all because you stretch, you become more flexible and you could take on more tension, when you're moving these patients around. Another tip is to obviously, guys, good body mechanics. If you don't know how to lift somebody up, there is a proper way to lift somebody up. It's not like, you're bending at the back. You gotta be able to do it properly, like a deadlift. If you don't do a deadlift properly, you're gonna hurt your back. If you don't squat properly, you're gonna hurt your back. If you don't bench properly, you're gonna hurt your shoulders, right? Same thing goes with lifting patients and turning them and moving them over to the other bed. And I mean, I can't really show you this because we're on podcast, but there's a great thing called YouTube that can show you how to do good body mechanics, or Google how to properly transfer a patient. There's so many resources out there for you to look at. And I'm sure, or I'm not sure, but your hospital should have some kind of an in-service teaching you on proper body mechanics. If they don't, then they're doing something wrong and you're probably getting yourself in a whole lot of trouble and you're more prone to injuries if they don't have any kind of in-service like that. We have one at least once a year.
Definitely. And that safe patient handling gets a requirement by the government. Every single year you have to get retaught. Not every single state has this law though. So you have to kind of, get in touch with them and look up on Google the states. And also when it comes to body mechanics, guys, one thing that gets neglected that you always learned in nursing school is to raise the bed to the lower back level. And honestly, man, if I have intubated patients or I know they're not like fall risks, I like to leave my bed higher because I'm going in there very frequently and I'm always bending to, draw blood, start an IV, and it's annoying, man. Lift them up to your height and it makes such a difference.
And ask for help. Don't just move somebody by yourself because you can. You try to turn somebody and they may forget you're turning them and they get scared and they resist you. And guess what? That's a back injury. Even though that grandma weighs 90 pounds, it's still the fact that she resisted. She's now a 200-pound individual and you didn't know she's going to resist and now you hurt your back. Like ask for help. Like it's not that hard. It literally takes like 2 minutes, man.
Do you know that nurse I told you about back at home, Paul, the funny guy with the tattoos and stuff? Yeah. I'm sure maybe he'll notice because he watches the podcast. Like, dude, sometimes the way he was transferring patients, like just slid them, no shit's given. When it was an intubated patient, like he grabbed the leg when we were turning them, just lifted, like the leg is hanging over the rail. And he's like, okay, Matt, just do your job. I'm like, Paul, you're so funny, man. But yeah, he was one interesting nurse, man.
That's ridiculous. And then that brings us to a good point, like acute versus chronic. Like these injuries, they're going to start off acute and then they're going to move up to chronic. So your back might hurt a little bit now and you keep avoiding it. And now instead of getting it fixed, you want to see a chiropractor instead of incorporating stretching and good lifting techniques. You keep hurting your back more and more and you're used to the pain. And then this pain isn't something new anymore. It's just something you've just came to have. And now you're going to have that pain forever because you refuse to do anything about it. And just another way of living. Like when people would say, yeah, I'm just getting old. My back hurts. Like, no, it's not because you're getting old. It's because you had poor body mechanics before. And now you kind of haven't done anything to fix that or relieve those. And now you're kind of stuck with it your whole life. And then you got to have like a slip disc repair or some kind of a surgery on your spine to, realign it or just fix it and try to get rid of that pain.
Definitely. And like the last one is proper shoes. So I don't know what the proper shoes are for nursing. I guess definitely if you have an arch or, if you have the Heelys, there we go. If you have a flat foot, grab something for that. But I definitely wouldn't mind checking out, even for myself, like doing some orthopedic insoles. Because I feel like sometimes what happens with my feet is I'm kind of more inward. So like my feet go inward, I've been noticing. So it'd be good to correct that to maybe help with my lower back. But I definitely I got to get a new fresh pair of Nikes. That's what I wear. I wear running shoes.
You don't mess with Adidas, just Nike?
Actually, I might get Adidas pair. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I actually looked yesterday. I went to the store and they looked very nice. They're on sale for, I believe, $110, which is still pricey for, a pair of shoes, but it is what it is. I prefer them over the Crocs. I started off with Crocs, wore them, love them. My foot smells and sweats way too much in Crocs.
Yeah, I think every nurse's feet smell. Like if your feet don't smell, you're either lying or you don't have real feet. You have plastic feet. but or metal or whatever, or prosthesis. But yeah, every nurse that I come around, their feet smell. Like it's just a part of being a nurse, I guess. Maybe it's a Midwest thing.
It'd be pretty cool to make a giant survey online. Like, hey, are you a nurse? Do your feet smell?
Because California nurses' feet smell. Have you noticed?
I don't know, man. I feel like usually when they sit and I get a report, it's either standing because they're very huge on bedside, or we're by the computer desk. But I am conscious, like sometimes if I have my like feet crossed, I am gonna uncross my feet when I'm giving a report because I don't want my like bad odor to smell.
I let my feet air out sometimes. Sometimes when I'm charting, I take off my shoes a little bit and I let them air out, and it helps sometimes.
That's what I loved about the Crocs, man, because they just slip off. You could tingle, wiggle your toes, and all that good stuff, and then slip them back in and get to work.
Yeah, you get up. I saw my Crocs. I've been wearing these Crocs for almost 3 years now, and they've been solid. They're actually made for water, but they're actually comfortable to walk in.
It's funny because me and Peter bought the same pair of Crocs, different colors, like during the same time, and I got mine stolen, man. Someone stole them back in my job. Like, who wants to steal a pair of Crocs, like size 10 and a half? I know no nurse, because I was one of the only guys. I know no nurse does not have a size 10 and a half. So I always laugh that she must have took it home and her husband's cutting the grass with it.
That would be funny. You see him chilling by the pool. You see like a Facebook profile, they're on vacation, and some guys wearing Matt's Crocs. Like,
I'd be so pissed.
You're the one that took them, huh? I got you. Zoom in on it.
Let's go over, we're doing workplace violence. Let's talk about needles. And I feel like the longer your shift is, the more shifts you work in a row, you're a little bit more kind of Wild West with that needle. I want to say, like, I'm like, okay, I got to give 2 insulins. I just kind of go in there really quick and don't put on the light. I'm just doing alcohol, a quick pinch, and I'm putting a needle in. I feel like sometimes you're a little bit more reckless as the shift goes by, and what is it called? The more your shift, the more shifts you work. Even like, let's just say you have that 6 a.m. heparin, and it's busy at the end of the shift, you're giving the heparin extra quick. Sometimes you could be, don't be careless, because you never know what the patient has when it comes to bodily fluids, HIV, let's just say worst case scenario and things like that. So you want to prevent that and throw away your stuff as quickly as possible to the sharps container. And one thing I do want to mention is screw the hospitals that don't have the Lovenox needles that don't retract. So all of our needles in the hospital have safety caps, right? The Lovenox needles never have them. There's a few brands that as you take it out, the needle hides. Not in these new ones, but they care about our safety.
Really? I think our Lovenox needles still retract. But imagine a time where, how there's blood needles now everywhere? Imagine a time where they had no blood needles. They had regular needles for everything. You had to draw up your Lasix out of the vial with like a sharp tip needle. Because now they have blunt tip. Now you can't really stick yourself with a blunt tip needle. But imagine the days where they didn't have blunt tip needles. I'm sure needle sticks were probably up like 100%, because the only sharp needles that we have now on the unit is for insulin and heparin, and then rest are dull. And of course, if you're going to give vaccines, like I said, all the other needles are just dull needles where all you really need to do is just puncture through the vial and just give the medication through the blunt tip syringe. And you unscrew the blunt tip, put the cap on, unscrew it, and then give it to the patient through the access. But I can only imagine how crazy it was back in the day where everything was sharp.
Also have to take into consideration, PD, that you work at a nice hospital. Not everybody is the same. So maybe they still do use needles, because I've noticed it here.
Really? You guys still use like sharp, even for like Lasix and stuff like that?
Sometimes I'll use an 18 gauge needle or a 22. It just depends what kind of supplies I have. Is it
dull? Is it blunt tip, or is it actually sharp?
Straight up needle, yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, PD. Look at you living in a little.
Be careful,
nice
man.
You know how like you have to take the NCLEX and everything's by the books in this NCLEX hospital. Mm-hmm. You're working with little NCLEX hospitals, bro.
I don't know if we're all NCLEX. We didn't even got no fucking residents on here. We got to troubleshoot our own stuff, man.
I mean, it's true. You do work at a crazy place, man. Let's go over fall injuries. And, you can't really predict this sometimes, but what I like to do is sometimes is ask the patient, how are you feeling? If you're feeling dizzy, I want to see the patient physically have some strength to get up, man. There was a grandma that did not want to use a bedpan, and me and another nurse, and of course, get some help. We're trying to lift her, and we're literally lifting her up by the damn shoulders, armpits, and she cannot bear weight in her arms. We put her back down. We're like, listen, like, you're going to have to go in the bedpan. Like, I am not going to break my back lifting you up in the air with a nurse, transferring you over to a commode. Because I literally had my foot on her bed, lifting her up, like as if I'm giving a guillotine choke, like whoever's watching the video, boom, up like this, dude. And it's like, no, like,
Did she tap?
Did she tap? Yeah, she tapped, bro. She peed in the bed. But it's like, sometimes you just have to care for yourself a little bit more. Like, I understand it's uncomfortable being in a bedpan, but I'm not going to risk my back lifting you up. And I'm sure there was lift equipment. I'm sure the nurse neglected it where she didn't want to use it. It was change of shift, a whole bunch of different, factors that make us not want to use the proper equipment.
Yeah, like a scissor stand or something might have helped. But guys, if you do get injured, don't be afraid to report it. Like, it is your health. No one's gonna report it for you. No one's gonna be like, hey, did you hurt your back that time? How's your back feeling? You've been doing a lot of lifting. No one's gonna come up to you and ask you. So don't be afraid to report this. Like, don't feel embarrassed. I know some people might neglect reporting this because they might feel embarrassed about it or they don't want to take the time off. But you realize this is your life. Like, you're better off taking that 3 weeks of PTO because you got hurt compared to having this issue become chronic, compared to you go into the chiropractor doing stretches, massage, or whatever you got to do. And legally, if this injury does happen at work, you're legally covered by the law stating that the work is going to pay for your rehabilitation or however long it takes you to recover from this. And if they refuse that, you could definitely go, take them to court or file like a complaint. There's paperwork online that you could do saying that your hospital not taking care of you, and just do it, guys. Just don't be afraid. That back pain isn't worth it. That 3 weeks of work isn't worth it either, guys.
I wouldn't say it any better myself, guys. Definitely, guys. Let's take this into consideration that nursing is a very dangerous profession. Combined with all occupations, we still have more cases per 10,000, and we should really start respecting ourselves when it comes to, speaking up for getting better equipment at the workplace, standing up for yourself, asking for help, proper, lift equipment, proper lifting of the patients, and don't rush it. I know your shift is busy. You have to do this. You have to pass meds, but don't neglect safe patient handling, lifting, because it only takes one bad lift to get a patient up where you kind of feel a kink, and then the rest is history. You're going to, not be a bedside nurse. So please, guys, respect your back. We have only one. I know, as nurses, we like to put ourselves in front of other people, but, love yourself more and freaking cherish that back.
That's absolutely correct, guys. Have a wonderful day. Lift your patients properly next time. Have a good day. Peace out.
Take it easy, guys.